the guy that I'm about to discuss
Yeah.
is a magician,
Oh.
but he got a bunch of treats and no tricks.
Oh, you mean the Hail Mary thrower? He is a magician. I will give you
Stop.
that. Yeah.
This has everything to do about Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Because I've said this before, when people say Aaron Rodgers is great, they don't do him justice. He's historically great. He's transcendent great. No quarterback in the 97-year history of the NFL has possessed this man's head, this man's arms, this man's legs. There's not a throw he can't make rolling to his left, rolling to his right, in the pocket, changing arm angle, Skip. Because when you look at what he was able to do, and I give the Giants credit early on, they did a great job of confusing him. They kind of did what Dallas did. They rushed 4, got pressure, they sacked him, confused him, dropped 7, 8 in coverage, and it's like, okay, this is a great plan. Because if you look at his first 5 drive, Skips, he was 6 of 14, 42%, 54 yards, 4 sacks. But then you look at the 9 drives when he figured it out and says, okay, this is the way you want to play me? I got something for you. Last 9 drives, 19 of 26, 73% completion, 308 yards, 4 TDs, 1 sack. And that's what great players can do. And I always tell guys this, you must update your resume week to week. Sometimes you must update your resume in games. Skip, what you saw yesterday is just the tip of the iceberg. Because when he's historically good, he's almost unbeatable. And you have to match that. And when you crunch the numbers, Skip, we went back and forth, and Chris Carter was, I was like, I've watched their games, saw a couple of game tapes. There is no way I could somehow manage to get to 20 points for this team. I just couldn't. You don't change from what you are in the regular season and become something greater come playoff time. They're a 19 to 20 point ball club. That's what they score. And looking at them on the road, I just didn't see how they could get to that many points because Aaron Rodgers were averaging almost 31 points a game in the 6-game win streak. They scored 24, 25 at the drop of a hat. I knew the Giants couldn't get to that number. And you want to make it about Odell. Was Janoris Jenkins on that boat? What about Olivier Vernon? Snacks Harrison, hey, he had to be on the boat. Which one of the defensive players were on the boat? 0. Skip, what you saw yesterday is just the tip of the iceberg. And see, what you try to do, you like at the first 10 games. The first 10 games, Aaron Rodgers completed 63%, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Andrew Luck completed 63% for the season. Derek Carr was in the MVP discussion. He completed 63% of his passes. But in the last 7 games, 6 regular season and 7 playoffs, in 1 playoff, 70% completion, 19 touchdowns, 0 interception. Skip, this has nothing to do. Odell Beckham could have caught for 200 yards. It have made it a more interesting ball game. But yesterday, they were not going to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And it's time for you to say, you know what, Shannon, you're right. Aaron Rodgers is historically and transcendent great. And I apologize for saying Aaron bleeping Rodgers. From here on out, it's the historically great Aaron Rodgers.
Historically, he's won how many Super Bowls?
Well, I'm glad the only way you can define greatness is by winning championships.
Okay.
But okay.
Since that Super Bowl and with yesterday's victory at home, he rose to 4-5 in the playoffs since that Super Bowl win. That's historically great. That's transcendentally great. That's special. I don't know.
When Tom Brady won his last Super Bowl in 2004, and it was 12 years in between, was he great? Was he historically great? Because he hadn't won one since then, and he allowed Mark Sanchez to beat him in his building.
He allowed won 3.
Hold on,
he won 3 already.
Oh, so see now you changed it. So now you changed the narrative. Now he won 3, but he was still great, although he hadn't won one in 12 years. Give the man his due, Skip.
Okay, are you finished?
I'm done.
Good. So speaking of the transcendental Aaron Rodgers, I did think he was very good in the second half yesterday.
Very good.
That was after what I would call, by his standards, an horrendous start. In the first 5 series with 5 punts, he looked befuddled. He was muttering to himself. He was getting his table run by the New York Football Giants, who then allowed him to snap out of it. And it all started and finished with one Odell Beckham Jr. the face of the franchise, the best player on the New York Football Giants. Am I right about that?
Yeah, he is. Absolutely.
Okay. He let his team down twice by leading that group of receivers to Miami early last week and then by not showing up in Green Bay yesterday. He set the wrong tone early last week for his football team, and he set an even worse tone early in that football game yesterday. His early drops, one for a touchdown, and that was combined with another touchdown drop by Sterling Shepard, kept this team from going up 14-0 on an Aaron Rodgers who was as cold as Eli Manning was hot. All of a sudden, we saw playoff Eli reemerge. You know that guy?
Yes.
Who beat Aaron Rodgers in his house, who beat Brett Favre in the same house at Lambeau,
Yep.
right, in cold weather?
Yes.
That same Eli was just as hot as I've ever seen him at Lambeau Field, and he needed a little help to close the deals early. And Aaron Rodgers would have been flailing if they could have just driven the stake in at 14-0. But Odell and company let him off the hook. And it, of course, didn't help that Aaron Rodgers threw yet another, we're going to talk about this later, lucky Hail Mary at the end of the first half. Because he was horrendous until late in the first half, and then all of a sudden it's 14-6 at halftime. I knew not how. And I want to be very clear about this. This is not 2020 hindsight on my part. Would you please back me up on this, Joy, if you would? Did I not first guess this last Wednesday on this show? Did I not flip my pick, which I never do unless something happens? But I told you on Wednesday after I'd picked the Giants last Monday,
yes.
I said, whoops, hold the phone, stop the presses. You can't do what Odell, as the leader of this team, as the face of the franchise, the best player on the field, you can't do what he did because you can't take what I started calling a yacht club of receivers straight from Washington on Sunday night down to Miami for an entire night of clubbing followed by an entire morning of basking in the Miami sun on a yacht. I assume it was in, what, Biscayne Bay, or I don't know where it was.
I'm sure
Probably
somewhere around there,
Yeah,
yep.
somewhere around there.
Are you sure somewhere around there?
Well,
they're in Miami. That's taking a trip up to Fort Lauderdale.
And this was not a bye week. This was a regular week, and this was no way to prepare for a playoff game in single-digit temperatures at Lambeau Field. Football, as you well know and you should well know, is the ultimate team game, especially in January. And that sent the wrong tone, the wrong message to a defense. And you said, who were they on the wrong? No, the defense has been carrying this team all year long. You can't tell me they were not offended by this behavior, that they weren't furious over this behavior. And by the way, I don't think the Green Bay defense probably took it very well either, because they're probably pointing at Odell saying, oh, so that's how seriously you're taking us? You think you can just run roughshod over us, run go routes through us? No, let's see what happens.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. When you look at it, you said the defense has been carrying them all year. So what was your expectation going into the playoffs? Did you think Eli all of a sudden was going to average 35 points a game? I was on the 2000 Ravens. The defense carried us all year.
Okay, but it was playoff Eli. He came to life again when you least expected it. That guy that led that team on two incredible, against all odds, Super Bowl runs and beat Tom Brady twice in the Super Bowl, it looked like he had reemerged.
Yes.
Did he not? He made every throw for about a quarter and a half, right?
Yes.
He was on fire in Aaron Rodgers' house. Aaron Rodgers saying, your house is on fire. Well, it was starting to smoke a little bit in his house. And my point is what Troy Aikman said early in the telecast. God bless him. But he said, as a player, this is on our Fox, obviously, broadcast. As a player, the last thing I ever wanted to do was give the impression to a teammate I wasn't doing everything I could to win a football game and get as prepared as best I could. That sent the wrong tone and the wrong message. And so did Odell and Victor Cruz going out before the game shirtless. As we saw them shirtless on the yacht in Miami, we saw it all over the internet. And it's another look at me, build your brand kind of a move, trying to undercut, well, we prepared in the heat, so now we can come out in the cold. Baloney, you can. It's just the wrong place, the wrong time for that. And yet, if the yacht club had backed it up with early big catches, I would have had to back off and say, you got me on that one. Maybe the kids do know how to prepare in Miami. But no, what happened? Odell Beckham Jr. had his second worst yardage of his career, 28 total receiving yards. And it was the first time in his career he dropped a touchdown pass in the end zone. So I think not only did he not back it up, he drove home the point that he was completely out of line. And I don't think it was any coincidence that Eli Manning quit throwing to Odell in the second half and started throwing to the one receiver who didn't join the yacht club for the trip to Miami. Tavares King, who knew? I barely even knew who he was. And he led the team with 73 yards receiving on 3 big catches in the second half. So Eli's saying, heck with all you guys. I'm going to throw it to the one guy who didn't go to Miami, who does look like he wants to play today. So I'm sorry, in the second half, the Giants, not only had they lost DRC, but they started losing heart, they started losing hope. And I thought they just flat out gave up for the last quarter and a half of that game. I'm sorry, Aaron Rodgers, he looked great, but I thought they looked lifeless. I thought they self-destructed, stepped out of bounds with the kickoff. Then there's a loose ball on the fumble when Eli's arm got hit. Nobody even wanted the football anymore because they were done. They were ready to go back to New York. So I'm sorry, I just saw a team that basically quit on a leader who quit on them last week by going to Miami. And I don't want to hear anything about, oh, poor Odell, he took it so hard. He was banging his head against the wall, and then he stuck his fist through the wall. Poor man, baloney. Nope, he didn't take it seriously enough. He knew he didn't. He knew he was in the crosshairs and in trouble after that game, on the hot seat after that game. And he tried to toss it off as, there was no connection between what happened earlier. No, yes, there was, because then what did he say in the next breath? It created great distractions. See, he still doesn't even get it. He did. He created incredible distractions for his football team, but to him, that's building your brand. Creating distractions is actually a good thing because any publicity is good, except for trying to win a football game. Someday he might grow up and figure this out because he's an extremely talented young man. But yesterday he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, just as he was last Monday in Miami.